Hey yo! After a bit of a mental break, it's time for some more typical opinions. I felt like I should at least get one more video out before the end of the year. And what better way than to talk about our next class's weapons, especially considering TC2 just turned 10 years old. This time it's Big Tony, aka the Brute. He's a big boy with big guns, and can be a huge playmaker when set up just right with his team. For those who don't know or don't remember, here's the rules I follow for making these tier lists. 1. The rating is based on both my personal experience with the weapon and how good it is in general in your average match. 2. Weapons are not ordered in their tier, but more so organized so that the primary, secondary, and melee weapons are next to each other. 3. Any multi-class weapons will be shown for every class that can use them, since their viability can vary depending on who is using it. 4. The ratings I'll be using are excellent, best of the best, great, the runner-ups that are slightly outclassed, good, average, and just all around decent, okay, usable but better options, and miss. Just don't use it. This time, I'll be trying something different when going through all the weapons, and I'd appreciate your feedback in regards to it. Instead of going through all the weapons as I see them from memory and the wiki, I'll be starting from the lowest tier with weapons and work my way up to the best. With that said, let's ride! Let's start with the lowest tier with weapons in it, which in this case is actually the miss tier. There's only one weapon that I put in this tier, and that's the Frankenstein. I already had a distaste towards the Crank with other classes, but it's just elevated even more for Brute, due to his slow speed and this lack of synergy with his miniguns, as both have some kind of startup time before you can deal any sort of damage. Even for Fat Scout, any of the other shotguns are much better. Not to mention that it's a bit buggy at the moment, since you have to either wait about a second or switch weapons after firing to load more than one shell without it automatically being fired. So that's why it sits here at the very bottom. Moving up to the okay tier, we have our first lunchbox item, the Row Bar. It's definitely the most unique of the foods, giving you regen and lifesteal for 10 seconds, which sounds pretty cool on paper, but not so much in execution. In most cases, you're gonna be taking a lot more damage than you'll be able to gain back, and usually you eat food to heal yourself right away, not taking a long time to do so. However, there is a pretty funny case that you can use this in, and that's BSB. If you pair this with the eviction notice against Bloxy Boy, you'll be able to tank a lot of hits while it's up. So it's got some use, but not a lot. The only other weapon alongside this is the Flint and Steel Fists of Steel. In TF2, it's one of the best options because you're able to get it out quickly and walk around while taking reduced damage. And the slow switch speed can be bypassed by switching to the slot you don't want to use and then switching to the other. However, with TC2s, there's a problem. These things are heavy. Not only do you holster them slowly, you deploy them slowly as well. At the same penalty too. And you can't do the switch trick either, so it's not even worth running in most cases. On to the good tier, where we have our first primaries, starting with the Maxine. If you remember my typical opinions video on this, then you know how I feel about it. To summarize, the downsides don't outweigh the upsides much. However, between then and now, it actually got nerfed, adding some extra cons that make it so you don't have the passive 10% explosion damage resistance when revved up that all miniguns now have. You strafe at half the speed when revved up, and for some reason can't crouch, which honestly makes a lot of sense logically considering this thing's got two big wheels on it. Essentially, it forces you to W plus M1 when moving around and fighting, but it's still quite strong damage-wise. Next up is the first responder, the bane of all friendly doctors, cause when you're shooting, they'll try to heal you, but they can't, and they don't quite realize it most of the time. It is a pretty cool design, both appearance and gameplay wise, allowing you to go more off on your own since you get health on kill that can overheal. But I do question how the -2 health per shot works logically. Are the bullets made of his blood or something? Anyways, it's not the best choice when you want to play with your team, but it's got its charm. Last of the primaries here is the Biker's Blitz, CC2's Brass Beast. I'm gonna be real here, it has its fans, but I'm not one of them. I already wasn't a fan of being slow, but this is ridiculous to the point where you're basically just a sentry when you rev up. The damage resistance and bonus is nice, but it doesn't really matter all that much when you've got a laser sight right on your forehead. The best way to get movement with this thing is by using the payload when you're on offense. Fast as you ever go with this, and you're helping with the objective, so win-win. Next up is the only secondary here, the Tenacious Turkey, TC2's Buffalo Steak Sandwich. Taking a bite out of this thing and just going in throwing hands is a lot of fun, but not always viable since all you've got to throw is your hands. My go-tos for when I want to mess around with a turkey are the boxing gloves because crit swing go, and the eviction notice because it turns you into a JoJo reference. Speaking of which, that's the next weapon here. Compared to its TF2 counterpart, it has some good and bad changes. The good being you don't have to worry about the health drain while it's out and it's deployed faster, but the bad being you don't get any speed boost until you get a kill. Still usable when you want to get quick melee damage faster, but not really ideal. Lastly in this tier is the Warrior Spirit. I honestly don't remember the last time I saw a brute using these. And the thing is, aside from the slower switch speed, these aren't that bad. You deal more damage, can inflict bleed, and have more range. Which, for the slowest class, extra range is pretty useful for a melee weapon. Plus, you don't have to worry about a stupid hidden damage vulnerability like in TF2. I'd like to see more brutes try this weapon out, cause it's got some potential. Now we're in the Great tier, consisting of really viable stuff that just barely gets outclassed, starting with the Tomislav. It's a well-known debate in TF2 between which minigun is better between stock and the Tomislav, but here the Tomislav is just a bit worse. It's still more accurate and has silent rev, but 50 less ammo can be painful at a bad time, and the slower firing speed can make it harder to secure kills. Even so, it's still one of the best primary options by a long shot, especially considering that you can just wait for someone to come around the corner and just start blasting them with their pants down. Next up is the
shotgun!
The stock shotgun is always a reliable option when you want to run a damaging secondary, but in most cases you'll have some kind of food on you. It's also consistent and a strong option for Fat Scout too. Similarly, the Bulletstormer and Family Business are also here for pretty much the same reason, with the added benefits of an increased clip size and a faster firing speed respectively. Though the Stormer does more damage since it has more bullets per shot, so you can really swap any of these three out depending on what you prefer. The only food item in this tier is a Special Ops Sushi. This thing is pretty underrated if you ask me. Giving yourself overhealth that can't decay is quite nice, and the fact that others can get that benefit too when you toss it out is really good. You can give it to your doctor and they become much harder to kill. I like this a lot. Now for the melees on here, starting with the stock fist. They made these very versatile for many different loadouts, as you have a faster switch speed across all your weapons, you reload shotguns much faster, and can throw food much further. So these can be slotted into anything you want to do and you'd really get good benefits from them. Joining them are the boxing gloves, TC2's killing gloves of boxing. They function the exact same except random crits aren't a thing here, but one good punch is all that you need to start going ham. And when the stars align, it is oh so satisfying going on a crit streak. Lastly is one of TC2's unique weapons, the Gravity Coil. Giving Brute vertical mobility is a game changer, as it opens up a lot of new opportunities that you couldn't even dream of doing before. It's great for when you want to flank around and shred the team from behind, or even just cutting off someone from reaching a health pack you know they're fleeing toward. Even just the premise of looking up in the sky and just seeing a giant muscular man with a minigun dropping down on you is quite scary. Finally, we've reached the excellent tier, the best of the best in my personal opinion. Kicking off with the stock minigun. Let's be real here, the stock primary for all classes is easily one of, if not the best option for those that are looking to improve and carry their team. And the minigun is no exception. With the newly added 10% explosion damage resistance, which allows you to tank one more pipe at full health, and a faster ramp up time on miniguns, this is a beast when it comes to shredding through the competition, and there's really no argument to be made for it. Next is the M249, a completely different primary compared to a minigun because it's not a minigun, it's a machine gun. Unlike the miniguns, it doesn't need to be revved up, so as soon as it's fully deployed, you can just start blasting. However, you still move about as slow as a revved up minigun while it's out, and you have to reload it. I remember hearing a lot of people say that this thing was way too OP because of the fact that it didn't need to be revved up. But when it comes to the DPS of it compared to the minigun, it's actually worse, especially factoring in the ramp up buff that these miniguns got not too long ago. If anything, this is more of a consistent middle ground between an unrevved and a fully revved minigun, and I quite like that a lot, even though it feels like my aim with this in particular is horrible sometimes. Moving on to the secondaries, we have the Death Blow, easily one of, if not the best multi-class shotgun. Being able to pretty much instantly switch to this for a quick burst of damage is really satisfying, and it works well as a standalone weapon since it fully reloads on kill, which makes it great for Fast Scout or a more hybrid-based set with the M249. However, if we're talking purely for Fat Scout, nothing compares to the Sub Shotgun. Sure, it has 2 less shots, but if you can use stock well, then you can use this as well since you get half your health back since they drop brash burgers on kill that you and your allies can grab. Reduced healing from other sources doesn't mean anything if you can just spawn them out of the corpses of your enemy. Also, I just love the design of this, is just shoving a shotgun into a hoagie and wrapping it in wires. Speaking of burgers, the Brash Burger CC2 sandwich is one of the best food items you can have. Fully restoring your health and providing a medium health pack to others is super helpful. But it's not the only one here, as it's joined by the Battle Burrito, CC2's second banana, which is weird to say as that's literally one of its reskins. 200 health in a third of the recharge time is nothing to scoff at, so it just depends on your preference depending on which one you want to use. But nothing compares to my personal favorite food item, the Dire Donut. While it has the lowest healing of the 3, it recharges in half the time of the burger and is eaten much faster. On top of that, it also acts as a medium ammo pack too, since it restores ammo for you and your allies. So you get a 2-for-1 deal with this, and I love using it. Last, but certainly not least, we have the best melee with the Speed Coil. CC2's gloves are running urgently. Getting around much faster is really helpful, and especially in those really close fights where you need to get back as soon as possible to take the win. When they changed the penalty from the max health drain that it has in TF2 to being marked for death like it used to have, I had my complaints because at the time you could see the icon through walls, so anyone can see you coming from a mile away. Now that it's no longer an issue, being marked for death is just an inconvenience at best. And that's all of them. Overall, a lot of good stuff with very few outliers. But what do you think of Brut's weapons? And how did you like the change in format? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching to the end. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and it's time to close down the arcade for today. See ya!